I am working on The Secret. I've been working on it since about 2015 when my sister found the book at an old library sale. They were just getting rid of books, and she bought it and gave it to me thinking that I would be interested in it, which I like to do treasure hunts. And so I was interested, and it was the first time I'd heard about it. So I've been working on it since then, but last year I started going back and just I wanted to start from the beginning again, and I've been paying more attention to it more in a literary sense. And these are some of the I'm not going to go through this whole PowerPoint here, it's for something else, but um, where Byron puts in the book itself, it says man named his abode civilization, for man was an acquisitive creature and names were things he could possess. So man found his strength in words. And then he talks here the forest to lumber, earth to road. I'll expand on that later or whatever. But the fact that he puts in here that man found his strength in words made me think that he's trying to let us know that we need to be paying attention to particular words and how words could help reveal to us this secret. I also went back through everything else and I created this Excel. And I was just going through, I wrote down everything that I could see, everything that was written, just using the words, bringing everything out. Like I said here, every time it's mentioned, if it was mentioned first, particular words, things like that. So I was just trying to go back through and see if there was something that I could eventually make a pattern with, if something would just jump out at me. I wanted to just pay more attention to all the different words and things that were said. I even went through the manuscript and even created the stuff where there were some of these changes that were created. He changed a lot of the jewels. He changed some of the flowers. He even mixed up the mentions in the manuscript from what it was. So even I don't know. So like this one, the March, Hella's is the daffodil and the pearl, and then it says Chase Perfect Silver, but that one becomes the Cathay. But the Cathay was lapis lazuli and dragon green ancient stars. So I mean, some stuff has changed, and I wondered why. I'm not sure, but obviously words here are particular. All these are all the different Indian tribes, so I've paid attention to that and looked up a lot of things about the different Native Americans, the different litanies. When I started, I like patterns. That's the way my brain likes to work. So I didn't find patterns until I got down to this part where I had made copies of all of the poems, and I just went through with pencil and just trying to figure out what I could do. Depending upon where that in the Japanese edition it says to start solving the pictures and paintings, you must decode the poem by solving the combinations of numbers that are in the poems. So obviously we've got all these different numbers, and I still couldn't find anything with any of the numbers. I did lots of different mathematics and stuff like that or whatever. The only pattern that I could find that came out is when I did the numbers of the lines of the poems, which it's funny because the lines do seem to be broken up weirdly sometimes. So you're just kind of like, you're not sure why it's broken the way it is. But when you count the lines for each of the poems, then you get this. So we have pairings here. We have 2 poems that have 14 lines, 2 poems that have 15 lines, 2 that have 18, 2 that have 21, and then like you see here, there's these oddballs, a 19 and a 16 and a 22 and a 23. And my only choice in this was to pair 6 and 9 are the same if you swap the numbers upside down. And then the 22 and 23 are the only ones left out. And I'm not sure if maybe these would be the more difficult ones to figure out and to find. And maybe that's why they're a little different. I'm not sure if he just felt as though it needed to be that way. But significantly, you can tell that there are some pairings going on here. Then I took, like you can see the bolded here, the solved ones that are bolded, you would see the number in the line in the poem. A 1 was used to solve, this is the painting 11. Here, it was 14 lines, and this one just happened to have 4 as the verse, 14 in the poem, and 4 as the painting. And then this other one, that was the Boston, I believe, you've got 15 lines and the 5th painting. So 5 and 5. So I went through trying to figure out which one would be which. So my other option was starting out, thankfully, the wording in the poems, let's see here, we've got at the end of this Journey to the New World area. So here you've got on the first morning of the first spring day, which is really odd that this is a literary device here. You're adding first morning, first spring day, because you're trying to make sure that somebody's paying attention to these words that you're repeating, first and first. And then you've got an introduction of this Prince Yi. The next number that you're given here is 9 blazing suns. So you have first and 9. Obviously, the one that is the Cathay that is talking about these people here is actually the first painting, the one that you come across the first. And then the next number you have is a 9. So if you go back to my Excel spreadsheet here and you see our verse 9 has 15 numbers. Thankfully, Boston has been solved, so we know the 5 has already been used. So the only other one to be used would be the 1. Well, 18 is this one here. Verse 3 is already solved, and that one was 11. So 1 is our only other option. So this kind of lines up with that wording, the first painting, and 9. You got 1 and 9. So this one might most likely be painting number 1. And it's in verse 9. So I've done this through the other ones. The way that it ended out is like 14 here has to be split in half, though. It has to be 7 plus 7 is 14 instead of the 4, which we already know the 4 is here, and there's the 1's already used. You've already used 11, and you've already used 1, which is going to be here. I think I've got them here. Oh, these here. So this is the only thing I can come up with that came up with a pattern for me for the numbers of the verses with the paintings to help come up with something that will help you. So I've started going through to try to figure out if there is something to any of these. I believe the one that has to do with Montreal, if you take the poem that is allotted for it, you will find a lot of stuff, especially if you look up the Edwin and Edwina in Montreal. The one with the Cathay, if you look at the park itself, and you will see as well, there are some interesting changes, the way that your brain has to start looking at them differently and just say, okay, what if it is this one? That's just what I've been doing. Another thing that I have been working on that goes along with this sort of is that I feel that Byron was trying to, especially, like I said, let me go back to this one, where he says, the forest to lumber, earth to road, man expanded his empire, and the fair people were threatened. And you will discover what happened when the fair people found man and the new world, who shared their deep love for nature. Best of all, you will learn of your role in the fair people's story and the significance of the quest for the treasure in the relationship between man and the fair people. I have a lot more into this that I've thought about, but if you look into the different Native American trails in the United States and how they relate to our roads that we have now. There is this good article. Let me see if I can find it. This one with The Guardian that talks about Native American routes and the ancient trails hidden in Chicago's grid system. You can find a lot of information about most of our larger roads now. If you look at this is Chicago. This is Grant Park area right here. Look at this here. You see these roads that come out are roads that were based off of the old trail systems. And it talks about this whole vanishing where they're going along the roads and being told where to go, but the Native Americans stayed behind, even to their detriment. But they took these routes. So when you look at, here's the old National Roads Trail. There is, let's see, the old Spanish Trail you got here from St. Augustine. It goes all the way through Florida, Pensacola. You hit New Orleans. You go in, you hit Houston. And it takes you all the way on to San Diego. There is this one here, the Lincoln Highway. And it takes you all the way from Boston to San Francisco. So if you start following these roads, you will see that a road will take you from one to another when it comes to the different secret treasures. So you've got Boston. The King's Highway was one of the main ones. You've got Boston going all the way down to St. Augustine. So I don't know what happened here, but it originally was just Boston to Charleston, but then it was expanded further up into Maine and then down to St. Augustine. But you can take one road, you can still take it, a highway that goes all the way down and hits all the cities you want. You can take one from Boston and you can take it all the way across and you can hit where you want to in Ohio and Chicago. I haven't fully worked this all out. Obviously, we don't have any new casks, but we do have the cities. And this seems pretty prevalent in the way that he was trying to possibly use the secret to do some teaching, just the way that he had, wanted to create something entertaining when he created the comic books for kids to teach them things as well. So I'm not sure if he was in the same light. He was trying to figure a way out on this. So, but you can take Boston down to St. Augustine, then take the other highway across. You hit just about every city. The only one really is Montreal. But other than that, so I'm not sure. It's just what I wanted to put out there. It's scary because, you're going to have everybody go, oh, that's stupid, whatever. And I don't know. It makes sense to me. Maybe other people will see it. But this right here, the numbers and the poems and stuff and them lining up the way that they are, I just don't see how that, especially the way that he did the poems and he cut up the lines of the poems. Some are longer, some are shorter, but then obviously this is doing something right here. And it already lined up with the ones that were already solved. So, and then that part in the passage, I feel there are a lot of words in the passage. I can't say that. I just can't feel as though that all of a sudden he's just going to throw in the fountain of youth and that's the only word you use. And that's the only place that's that one in St. Augustine is going to be fountain of youth, but all the other words don't mean anything. So to me, him using the words that he's using, he is trying to bring your thoughts to stuff. So I feel that is something there with the nine sons in the first day or the first spring day. So first morning of the first spring day, 1 and 9. Take with it what you will.